It was supposed to be a special night. My wife, Jessica, and I had been married for 5 years, and we had made it a tradition to celebrate our anniversary in style, whether it was a fancy dinner or a getaway for the weekend. But this time she seemed a little different. She had been acting strange the whole week leading up to our anniversary. When I picked her up from work, she seemed unusually quiet. The usual excitement of our anniversary was nowhere to be found. We went out for dinner, and though the setting was perfect, the atmosphere felt off. As the night went on, she leaned in and whispered, "I want you to do something for me." As an anniversary gift, I smiled, thinking maybe she wanted a surprise trip or some extravagant gift. But what she said next caught me completely off guard. "I want 1 night of cheating. Just 1 night, as a gift." Her words felt like a slap across my face. At first, I thought I had misheard her. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to keep my calm. "I want you to let me cheat just 1 time," she said, almost too casually. I was stunned. My mind raced as I tried to process what she was saying. Was she serious? What had changed in her? We had a strong relationship, or at least I thought we did. There was no way I could agree to this. The night went on in silence after that. I couldn't stop thinking about her words. I had to make a decision that would change everything. The following week, things seemed to return to normal. Or so I thought. Jessica was acting like nothing had happened, but I couldn't shake off the image of her request. I was still processing it, trying to figure out what had changed in our relationship. Had I missed something? But then came her birthday. I had planned a lavish birthday party for her, as I always did. It was going to be a night of celebration, filled with her closest friends, laughter, and love. The venue was beautiful. The guests were all excited, and I was looking forward to seeing the smile on her face when she saw the effort I had put into making it perfect. But as the night went on, I started to notice strange things happening. Jessica was acting distant, almost cold. She was laughing with her friends, but her laughter didn't sound genuine. It was as if she was hiding something, and as much as I tried to ignore it, I couldn't. Then came the moment I'll never forget. As the cake was brought out and everyone was gathered around to sing happy birthday, Jessica stood up and clinked her glass for attention. "Thank you, everyone, for being here." "But I need to thank someone special," she said, her voice cutting through the noise of the party. I watched, confused and a bit apprehensive as she looked around the room. But then, to my shock, she turned to a man standing at the back of the room, a man I had never seen before. She smiled at him, and I felt my stomach drop. "Thank you, Mark, for always being there for me," she said, her voice dripping with sincerity. "You've been the best support I could ever ask for." My blood ran cold as I watched her hug him. Everyone in the room was silent, and for a brief moment I could feel every single pair of eyes on me. I was frozen, but it wasn't over. Jessica then turned back to me, handed me a custom T-shirt, and said with a smirk, "Here's a gift for you. It says everything you need to know." I looked at the shirt in disbelief. It was a plain white T-shirt with the word "divorced" printed boldly on the front. My world shattered in that instant. Her friends erupted in laughter, mocking me, as I stood there completely numb. I felt my blood boil, and without thinking, I turned on my heel and walked out of the party. My hands were shaking as I stormed out of the venue, my mind racing with a mix of anger, confusion, and heartbreak. As I walked out of the party, my heart was racing. The cool night air hit my face, but it didn't do much to cool the fire burning inside me. I was furious, betrayed, hurt. The woman I had spent years with, the woman I thought I could trust, had humiliated me in front of everyone. I couldn't understand what was happening. It was as if everything I thought I knew about her was a lie. But I wasn't about to let this go. I wasn't going to just walk away from this disgrace. I stormed back into the venue, my fists clenched. I could hear the laughter inside. It sounded so cruel, like a bad joke that no one cared to end. I pushed through the doors, and there they were. Jessica, standing with Mark, her arm around him as if nothing had happened. The sight of them together was too much to bear. I walked straight up to her, ignoring the startled faces of her friends. Without saying a word, I grabbed the custom T-shirt she had given me, the one with "divorced" written on it in bold letters. I yanked it out of her hands, turned around and headed for the exit. Her voice followed me. "What do you think you're doing?" she called after me. But I didn't stop. I was done. I didn't need to say anything else to her. The shirt, the public humiliation, they were enough. I left the venue with the T-shirt in hand, my mind in a whirlwind. I could hear her friends laughing behind me, but I didn't care. I was so far past caring. The only thing that mattered now was leaving. Leaving her behind, walking away from the life I had built with someone who didn't value me. I got into my car and slammed the door shut, my heart pounding in my chest. I wasn't sure where I was going or what I was going to do next, but I knew I couldn't stay there. I needed space. I needed clarity. And most of all, I needed to get away from all of them. I hadn't even driven a mile when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it at first. The anger still surged through me, and I couldn't bear to talk to anyone. The voice in my head was screaming, what had I just witnessed? How could Jessica, the woman I had married, humiliate me like that? What had she been hiding all this time? But then the buzzing continued. The calls kept coming in, one after the other. I glanced at the screen. It was a number I didn't recognize. At first, I hesitated, my hand gripping the steering wheel tight. Maybe it was just one of her friends, calling to taunt me, to make me feel worse. But something told me it was important. I pulled over to the side of the road, my hands still trembling as I answered the phone. "Hello?" My voice was barely a whisper, still thick with disbelief. "Is this Matt?" A familiar voice came through, though I couldn't place it at first. There was an urgency in the voice, and something else. It was almost like fear. "Yes, this is Matt. Who's this?" I asked, trying to keep my composure. "I'm Mark, from the party. We need to talk. Something's happening, and you need to know." My heart skipped a beat. I knew it. Something was off. But hearing Mark's voice, the man Jessica had thanked so publicly, didn't make sense. Why would he be calling me now? "What's going on? Why are you calling me?" I could barely get the words out as my stomach churned. I didn't want to be the one to say this, but Jessica, she's been hiding something from you, Matt. Something big. It's not just me. She's been seeing someone else. She's been lying to you for months. I felt my chest tighten. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the car. My hands gripped the steering wheel even tighter, and I could feel the anger, the betrayal, building up all over again. "What do you mean? She's been cheating?" I asked, almost in a daze. "It's more complicated than that," Mark said, his voice low. "I'm just one part of it. There's a lot more you don't know. And if you don't do something about it now, it could be too late." Before I could respond, Mark hung up abruptly. I sat there in stunned silence, the phone still pressed to my ear. Everything felt like it was spinning out of control. Cheating. More than one person. What was happening? I sat there for what felt like hours, trying to process what Mark had just told me. I wasn't ready for this, but deep down, I knew the truth. This wasn't the woman I had married. And just like that, my life felt like it was slipping through my fingers. I couldn't sit still any longer. The walls of the car felt like they were closing in around me. My mind raced with 100 questions, but there was one that stood out above all the others. What was Jessica hiding? The anger that had simmered inside me for the past few hours was now boiling over, and I knew I couldn't ignore it any longer. I slammed the car into gear and drove straight home. The drive felt like an eternity, but my thoughts were laser-focused on one thing: the truth. The truth that Mark had started to reveal, but there was still so much left unsaid. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more. Something deeper. Something that could shatter everything. When I finally got home, the house was eerily quiet. I stood in the doorway for a moment, feeling the weight of everything that had happened. I didn't even know if Jessica was there, but I didn't care. I needed answers. I took a deep breath and walked inside. My footsteps echoed through the house, amplifying the silence. I found her sitting in the living room, her back to me as she looked out the window. Her posture was relaxed, almost as if nothing had happened. The betrayal was like a physical weight in my chest, but I forced myself to stay calm. "Jessica," I said, my voice steady but full of fury. She turned around, a faint smile playing on her lips. "Matt, you're back. What happened to the party?" She sounded so casual, like nothing had changed, like I hadn't just walked out of her birthday party with her custom divorced shirt in my hands. I stepped forward, the words already forming in my mind. "You know what happened. I want to know what's going on. What the hell is this about, Jessica?" My voice was rising now, the tension thick in the air. She looked at me, her expression shifting. For a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of guilt, but it was gone as quickly as it came. "What do you mean? We had a little fun, Matt. It's nothing serious, just a game, that's all." She waved her hand dismissively, but I wasn't buying it. "A game? A game?" I repeated, barely able to contain my anger. "You think humiliating me in front of all our friends is a game? Giving me a divorce t-shirt as a gift? And what about Mark? What is going on between you two?" Her eyes widened, but only for a second. "It's not what you think. Mark and I cut her off, feeling a knot tighten in my stomach. "Don't even start. Mark isn't the only one, is he? You've been seeing other people, haven't you?" My voice cracked with the weight of the truth crashing down on me. Jessica stood up, but instead of defending herself, she sighed. "Matt, I didn't want you to find out this way. It wasn't supposed to happen like this." I took a step forward, my fists clenched, my mind reeling from the words I had never expected to hear. "Then how was it supposed to happen, Jessica? How was I supposed to find out that you've been cheating on me with multiple people?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she turned away and walked to the kitchen. Her back was to me now, and I could see her shoulders trembling. Was she actually crying? It didn't matter. I wasn't about to show mercy now. "Jessica," I shouted, my voice filling the room. "I deserve the truth. I want to hear it all, now." She turned back, her eyes red, but her face was resolute. "I wasn't happy, Matt, and I thought if I asked you for one night of freedom, maybe it would make everything better. But then it got out of control. I met people, and things just spiraled. My chest tightened as I heard the words. It was as if the ground had been ripped out from under me. So, it wasn't just one night. It was a series of lies, a series of betrayals. She nodded slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry. I didn't know how to stop." The truth was in front of me now, cold and hard. The woman I had loved, the woman I had trusted, had betrayed me in ways I could never have imagined. The silence between us was deafening. There I stood, in my own home, with my entire world crashing down around me. The woman I had once known and loved was a stranger now, and everything I had believed about our relationship felt like a distant memory. There was no fixing this. There was no way to go back to the way things were before. Jessica's eyes met mine, and for a brief moment I saw something. Regret, maybe. But it wasn't enough. I couldn't be there for her anymore, not after everything that had happened. I felt a strange calmness settle over me. It wasn't anger anymore. It was clarity. This wasn't the person I had married. This wasn't the woman I had planned a future with. She had made her choices, and now it was time for me to make mine. "Matt, please." Her voice cracked, her eyes pleading. "I never meant to hurt you. You have to understand. I was lost. I didn't know how to handle everything." I stared at her, feeling nothing but emptiness. Lost? That's how she justified it. She had been unfaithful, lied to me, humiliated me in front of our friends, and now she wanted to play the victim? I shook my head. "No, Jessica. You had choices, you made them. And now, so will I." I turned toward the door, my body moving on its own, each step feeling like a weight lifting off my chest. I had made up my mind. I wasn't going to waste any more time in a relationship built on lies. I wasn't going to be the one who stuck around for excuses. "Matt, wait!" she called out, but I didn't turn back. "Don't go. I can change. I can make it right." I paused at the door, but my resolve didn't falter. "You had your chance. This is over." With that, I stepped out into the night. The door slammed shut behind me, and I felt an overwhelming sense of freedom, even though the pain still gnawed at me. The love I had given her was real, but now it was just a memory. I didn't know where I was going or what I was going to do next. But I knew one thing for sure. I was done. The night air was cool, and my mind was still in a haze. As I walked down the street, each step felt heavier than the last. I had just walked away from a life I had known for years, from the woman I thought I would grow old with, from the person I had trusted more than anyone else. Everything felt like a blur. The t-shirt, the laughter, the betrayal. It was as if my entire reality had just shattered, and I was left trying to pick up the pieces. I didn't know where to go. I didn't have a plan. I just needed space. To think. To breathe. My mind was still reeling from the shock of what I had learned, and the hurt was unbearable. But as I walked aimlessly, my phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a number I didn't recognize. It was Jessica. I hesitated before answering. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to block her out entirely. But there was still a voice inside me that wanted to hear what she had to say. Maybe she was sorry. Maybe she was going to admit everything. I didn't know, but I felt like I needed to know how this would end. I pressed accept and held the phone to my ear. "Matt." Her voice was shaky, almost pleading. "I need to explain." "I don't think there's anything left to explain, Jessica," I replied, my voice a mixture of exhaustion and cold indifference. "You've said it all. You cheated. You humiliated me. And now you expect me to just listen to more excuses. Matt, please. Just hear me out for a second, she begged. I didn't think it would get this far. It was one mistake, one night that I regret so much. But it didn't mean anything. I was drunk, confused. I never wanted to hurt you. I swear I didn't. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. One mistake? That was what she was calling it? What about all the other nights? The lies? The betrayal? It wasn't just one night, Jessica, I said, my voice steely now. It was a pattern. And even if it was just that one night, it still hurts like hell. She fell silent for a moment, and I could hear her breathing heavily on the other end. Matt, I know I've lost you, but I need you to know the truth. You're not the only one I've hurt. I've been seeing someone else for months. I froze. For a split second, I couldn't even comprehend her words. Someone else? For months? What are you talking about? I managed to ask, barely able to form a coherent thought. I've been seeing Mark for months now. It started out as a friendship, but it became something more. And then, everything with you, it just spiraled, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I never wanted to hurt you, Matt. I just didn't know how to stop. The ground seemed to shift beneath me, and I leaned against a nearby street lamp, the weight of her confession sinking in. Mark, the man she had thanked at her birthday party, the man who had been involved in this mess all along. The betrayal ran even deeper than I had ever imagined. She had been leading a double life, with him, with me, and it was all falling apart in front of me. You've been lying to me for months, Jessica, I said, my voice low and controlled, despite the rage bubbling inside me. How could you do this? How could you do this to us? I never meant for any of this to happen. I was confused. I didn't know how to handle it. But I can't lose you, Matt. I love you. Her voice cracked on the last words, but they were meaningless now. It didn't matter what she said. The damage had already been done. The anger inside me surged again, and I could feel my heart racing in my chest. How could she think that love would fix this? How could she think that after everything, I could just come back? I can't do this anymore, I said firmly, the finality in my words cutting through the phone line. It's over, Jessica. I'm done. Before she could respond, I hung up. For the first time in what felt like forever, I stood there, completely still, staring at the phone in my hand. Everything had changed. In a matter of days, my entire world had flipped upside down. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I trusted, was gone, and I was left with nothing but a broken heart and the harsh reality of betrayal. But as I stood there, still in shock from the call, the phone buzzed again. I hesitated, not wanting to pick it up, but I had a feeling that something big was about to happen, something I didn't expect. I swiped the screen, and the message that popped up on my phone froze me in my tracks. It was a message from Mark. I stared at the phone screen in disbelief. It wasn't Jessica's name that flashed on the screen. It was Mark's. My mind raced, wondering what he could possibly want after everything that had just unfolded. Part of me wanted to throw the phone away, to ignore it, and walk away for good. But another part of me, the part that still had unanswered questions, felt like I needed to hear what he had to say. After all, he was the man involved in the mess, the one Jessica had been seeing behind my back. There had to be more to this story. With shaky hands, I pressed open the message. It wasn't a long one, but it was enough to make my heart skip a beat. Matt, we need to meet. There's something you don't know about what's been going on. It's bigger than you think. If you're still interested in the truth, meet me at the old park on 5th. I'll be there in 30 minutes. I stood there, frozen, staring at the message. My thoughts were all over the place. Why would Mark want to meet with me? What else could he possibly have to say? Had he been involved in something even darker than I realized? Or was he trying to salvage something? Trying to make things right? I didn't know what to think, but one thing was clear. I couldn't just let this slide. I needed answers. And if Mark was the one to give them to me, then I would go. I drove to the old park on 5th. It was a quiet, secluded place, perfect for a conversation no one else should hear. As I arrived, I parked my car a little further away, trying to keep a low profile. The place was nearly empty. Just a few scattered joggers and dog walkers in the distance. Mark was sitting on one of the benches, his back to me. He didn't look up as I approached, but I could tell he knew I was there. "Matt," he said, his voice almost a whisper, but with an edge of urgency. "Thanks for coming." I didn't reply right away. Instead, I just stood there, staring at him, waiting for him to explain himself. My mind was racing, every thought filled with anger, confusion, and betrayal. Why was he dragging me here? What did he know? Finally, he turned to face me. "You deserve the truth. I don't want to be the one to say this, but you have to understand. This whole thing, it wasn't just Jessica. It's bigger than that. She wasn't the only one keeping secrets." I felt my stomach drop. Bigger than that? What could possibly be more complicated than what I already knew? "Go on," I said, trying to keep my voice calm, though inside I was screaming. Mark took a deep breath, then leaned in closer as if to make sure no one could overhear us. "I was part of something. Something that started long before you ever found out about me and Jessica. There's someone else. Someone who's been pulling the strings from the very beginning." I stared at him, completely confused. "What are you talking about?" "There's someone behind all of this, Matt. Someone who knew exactly how to manipulate both of you. I didn't want to get involved, but I couldn't stay away. I tried to keep it separate, but it all got out of hand," Mark said, his eyes darting nervously. 1,000 questions ran through my mind. Who? Why? What strings had been pulled? This wasn't just about Jessica anymore. It was about something far more complicated. "Who else is involved, Mark?" I asked, my voice tight with frustration. "Tell me everything." Mark hesitated for a moment as if weighing whether he should continue. Finally, he spoke again, his voice low and serious. "It's Jessica's friend, Sarah. She's been working with another man, someone with influence. They were the ones who convinced Jessica to push you away, to make you feel worthless. They told her that leaving you would be the best thing for her career. It was all part of a bigger plan." My head was spinning. This was beyond anything I had expected. Not only had Jessica betrayed me, but there was an entire web of manipulation and lies I hadn't even begun to unravel. "Sarah," I repeated, my mind trying to process it all. But why? Why would she do that? "Sarah was after something, Matt. She's been trying to get close to you for months. She knew about the business you were working on, and she wanted a piece of it. But she knew you wouldn't give it to her while you were still with Jessica. So she got Jessica to do the dirty work for her," Mark explained, his voice steady now, though there was a deep regret in his eyes. I felt the anger well up inside me again. My entire world had been a lie. Jessica, Sarah, Mark, they had all been playing me. They had been manipulating everything to get what they wanted at my expense. "So, what now?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "What happens next?" Mark looked at me with a somber expression. "It's up to you, Matt. You can expose them, or you can walk away. But if you want justice, if you want the truth to be known, you're going to have to fight for it. These people don't care about you. They only care about themselves. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm inside me. I had never felt more betrayed, more lost. But as I looked at Mark, I realized something. I had a choice. This wasn't over. Not yet. I'm done being a pawn in their game, I said, my voice steady. I'm going to make sure everyone knows what happened. I'm going to expose the truth, no matter the cost. Mark nodded, a faint hint of approval in his eyes. Good. Just be careful, Matt. They'll try to stop you. I stood up, feeling the weight of everything sink in. The betrayal, the lies, the manipulation, they all came crashing down in that moment. But I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let them win. Not anymore.